Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiriye Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhagavati Naistiki. So continuing with the discussion on Srila Prabhupada Lilamrita by Srila Das Goswami, Volume 3, Only He Could Lead Them, San Francisco, India, 1967, Chapter 26, Swamiji's Departure. So Prabhupada is in San Francisco and he is giving initiations left and right. People have been waiting, and before he could leave for New York and then to India, people just wanted to get initiated. John Carter, at the end of the lecture, I was sure that I wanted to be initiated. And even though there was some talk of being initiated by mail, I knew I wanted to have that personal connection with my spiritual master and be personally initiated by him, personally accepted. I ran up to Mukunda and said, "How many are on the list? I would like to get on the list." He said, "Well, Swamiji isn't really taking them in any particular order. We are just going to try to pick out the most sincere people. Please put my name on the list," I said. "I'm really sincere. I really want to get initiated." So he put me down and took the list up to Swamiji. And Swamiji began calling for people one by one. After the third person, when my name wasn't called, I became a little worried. Then after the fourth person, I was really sitting on edge. Then when they called the fifth person, it wasn't me. I was totally destroyed. I felt, oh, he's going to India. Then he's going back to Krishna. I just lost my chance. This is it. There is no use in me living anymore. I was trying to make it to the court rack and get my coat and get out before anybody could see me crying. I hadn't started crying, but I could tell it was coming. A couple of people patted me on the back and said, "It's all right. He can write you a letter and tell you your name." All I could think was, yeah, the way he was talking tonight, it may never happen. I could barely stand up. I went outside and started walking across the parking lot towards Golden Gate Park. I was kind of heading towards the Golden Gate Bridge. I thought I'll just jump off. Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco, famous for people to commit suicide, actually. It hadn't been there long enough to understand that if you commit suicide, you have to become a ghost. I just figured my life was useless. I got about halfway across the parking lot when the idea struck me. What if we decided to take one more and I was out here somewhere? The thought filled me with so much hope that I turned around and ran back to the temple. And just as I walked in the front of the temple, Janki ran down and said, "He will take one more." And she grabbed somebody else and ran up the stairs. I felt my knees start to collapse and tears came jutting out of my eyes. Harsharani was standing there and she grabbed me by the arm and said, "Come with me." She raced up the stairs, pulling me to the top and burst into Swamiji's room without even knocking. Swamiji looked up with amazement. She said, "Swamiji, you have to initiate this boy." I was just bawling and Swamiji began to laugh. He said, "It's all right, don't cry. Everything will be all right." He chanted on my beads and gave me the name Jivananda. And so many of these devotees, they did wonderful service. If not all, but many of them, they did wonderful services. The next morning, Prabhupada had to leave his affectionate followers. Several cars filled with devotees accompanied him to the San Francisco airport. Nandarani, some were sincere and some were crying because it was appropriate to cry when the spiritual master leaves. Actually, none of us really knew much about what the spiritual master was. Janki mischievously stole the ticket and passport from Prabhupada's hand. "Now you cannot go," she said. "That's all right," he smiled. "I already have my boarding ticket. I'm Indian. They'll let me into my own country." Prabhupada turned to his adoring followers, gathered close around him at the boarding gate. "Actually, I have only one desire, and whoever does this will please me very much." Now I have a temple in New York, in Montreal, and a temple in San Francisco, but I do not have a temple in Los Angeles. He told them to remain in Krishna consciousness and to please preach. They watched as he turned and walked through the gate, his cane in one hand, boarding pass in the other. I mean, just see, oh, I just want a temple in Los Angeles. Of course, the temple wasn't the way the temples are now. Just small storefront would be considered a temple. But it was the sincerity of devotees that really attracted Krishna's mercy. And then the movement became bigger and bigger and bigger. And their sincerity came from how much they loved Prabhupada and how much Prabhupada loved them. That's all mattered to them that time. In New York, there was hardly time for sadness. Srila Prabhupada telegraphed Sri Krishna Pandit that his arrival in Delhi would be on July 24th at 7:30 a.m. and that Sri Krishna Pandit should prepare Prabhupada's quarters at the Chippiwana temple. In the telegram, Prabhupada mentioned his intention to consult a physician in Delhi and then go to Vrindavan. He was anxious to return to Vrindavan. The day before his departure, Prabhupada wrote to Srimati Murarji. In reply to his last letter, she had agreed to provide free steamship passage to India for him, but not for his disciples. As I had arranged for your passage to America, she had written, I think it is my duty to see that you return back to India safely, more so due to your indifferent health. But she would not allow free passage for any disciples. On July 20th, Prabhupada wrote, I am feeling too much to return to Vrindavan, to the lotus feet of Vrindavan Vihari, Lord Krishna, and therefore have decided to return to India immediately. I would have liked to return via sea, as you have so kindly offered me passage in your letter. But in my precarious state of health, that is not possible. So by the mercy of Krishna and through one friend here, somehow or other, I've received air passage, and I'm expecting to leave here for New Delhi on Saturday next, reaching the Palam airport on 24th instant at 7:30 a.m. From there, I shall proceed to Vrindavan after a few days' rest in Delhi. I can understand that at present you cannot allow free passage to my disciples. But if you don't do so, at least in the near future, then my mission will be half finished or failure. I'm just enclosing one letter of appreciation from one of my principal students, Bruce Schraff, from Professor Davis Eden, and another from Professor Roberts of New York University. I think these letters will convince you how much my movement of Krishna consciousness is taking ground in the Western world. The holy name of Hare Krishna is now being chanted not only in this country, but also in England, Holland, and Mexico, that I know of. It may even be more widespread. I have sent you one gramophone record, which I hope you may have received by this time. You will enjoy to learn how Krishna's holy name is being appreciated by the Western world. So he's saying Hare Krishna his name is being chanted in England, Holland, and Mexico. He did not send any disciples there yet, but I think it was maybe some devotees or some people bought his books and they went to these countries. Achyutananda told Prabhupada he wanted to go to India to study intensively, gather experiences, and become attached to Krishna. He had heard Prabhupada say that one could become more Krishna conscious in 2 days in Vrindavan than in 10 years in America. Do you think I'll be able to go? Achyutananda asked. Rest assured, Prabhupada told him, we'll meet again in Braj. Devotees had been asking Sasrup to transfer his civil service job to Boston and open a Krishna conscious center there. They had also asked Rupanuga to do the same in Buffalo. Sasrup and Rupanuga approached Prabhupada to find out what he wanted. He became very pleased. Subal was going to open a center in Santa Fe in California. He said, and Dayanand was going to Los Angeles. Hare Krishna mantra is like a big cannon, he told them. Go and sound this cannon so everyone can hear it and it will drive away Maya. See, one person is going to different cities, and how much experience or how much knowledge they had? Hardly anything. But they were just determined to serve Prabhupada. The devotees wanted to ask, but what if you don't return? They were fearful. What if Krishna kept Swamiji in Vrindavan? What if Swamiji never returned? How could they survive against Maya? But Swamiji had already assured them that whatever Krishna consciousness he had given them would be enough, even if he never returned. Can you imagine? Whatever Krishna consciousness he has given them, that's enough. And how much he had given? Didn't even have our own Bhagavad Gita at that time. Just 30 minutes before he had to leave for the airport, Prabhupada sat in his room chanting on the beads of a girl who had asked to be initiated. Then, as he had done many times before, he left his apartment, went downstairs, crossed the courtyard, and entered the storefront. Sitting on the old carpet, he spoke quietly and personally. I may be going, but Guru Maharaj and Bhaktivinoda are here. He looked towards the paintings of his spiritual master and Bhaktivinoda Thakur. I have asked them to kindly take care of all of you, my spiritual children. The grandfather always takes care of the children much better than the father. So do not fear. There is no person of separation. The sound vibration fixes us. It fixes us up together, even though the material body may not be there. What do we care for this material body? Just go on chanting Hare Krishna, will be all hands up together. You will be chanting here and I'll be chanting this vibration. Several devotees rode with Prabhupada in the taxi. Brahmananda in the front with the driver, Rairam and Kirtananda in the back beside the spiritual master. When Kirtananda sees Vrindavan, Prabhupada said he will not be able to understand how I could have left that place and come to this place. It's so nice. There are no motor cars there like here, rushing, whoosh, whoosh, and smelling. Well, now that Vrindavan has changed, it's only motor cars and the auto was so much of noise. Only there is Hare Krishna. Everybody always chanting thousands and thousands of times. I'll show you Kirtananda. We'll walk all about there and I'll show you. Brahmananda began to cry and Prabhupada patted him. I can understand that you're feeling separation. I'm feeling for my Guru Maharaj. I think this is what Krishna desires. You may be coming there to me uh, and be training up and we will spread this movement all over. Rairam, you will go to England. Ramananda, you want to go to Japan or Russia? Something like that. I will imagine not just cities, we're talking different countries. And just one person going there to preach. The devotees converge from the Air India waiting room. Near a crowded cocktail lounge, wearing a sweater, his chadar folded neatly over one shoulder, Prabhupada sat in a chair. His disciples sat as closely as possible around his feet. He held an umbrella just as we had. He had first come alone to India almost 2 years ago. Although exhausted, he was smiling. Prabhupada noted a mural of Indian women carrying large jars on their heads, and he called the name of a young girl who had recently gone with her husband, Ansuduta, to join the ISKCON Center in Montreal. Himavati, would you like to go to India and learn to carry this water pot like the Indian women? Yes, yes, she said, I'll go. Yes, Srila Prabhupada said, someday we'll all go. Kirtananda was carrying a portable battery-operated phonograph and 2 copies of Hare Krishna Mantra. Kirtananda Prabhupada asked, why not play the record? They will enjoy. Kirtananda played the record very softly, sound catching the attention of people in the cockpit. Make it a little louder, Prabhupada asked, and Kirtananda increased the volume. Prabhupada began nodding his head, keeping time. Soon the devotees began humming along with the record and quietly singing, and then gradually they were singing loud. Kirtananda, Brahmananda, and other devotees began to cry. Ansaduta. I was sitting right next to Swamiji, and all the time I was thinking, oh, my spiritual master is going to India. And he said, I want to die in Vrindavan. We all knew Swamiji was going, but now it was a last moment. I was also seeing that I hadn't done anything for my spiritual master. He doesn't even know who I am. I thought, there is no relationship. I must do something. I must be something now. I must serve him in such a way, in some way, which will establish some place in his heart. Something, I was thinking. What can I do? I was crying and they didn't even look at me. It was like I wasn't even there, just like a chair, something. He was just always looking around and everything, and I was trying to catch his eye. All of a sudden, he would say something. The kirtan was getting heavier and heavier, and so was the crying. And the people in the waiting room were just looking at Swami. He was someone very special. In the middle of it all, Swami was completely relaxed, as if this was his place and this was just a normal thing to do. When the record ended, Hansadutta asked Swamiji, can I take a collection? Prabhupada nodded. Hansadutta stood and made a little speech. Our mission is to spread Krishna consciousness. We have a temple in New York. We always badly need a money. Please help us. Borrowing a hat from a soldier. Hansadutta went around taking collection. Our traveling is very auspiciously beginning. Prabhupada said, we had a nice kirtan and now we have a nice collection. It's all Krishna consciousness. Then it was time to board the plane. Prabhupada embraced each of his men. They stood in a line and one after another approached him and embraced him. He patted a few of the women on the head. Look around. Swamiji was embracing the men. Kirtananda, Brahmananda, Garbhani. I never expected that he would ask me to step forward. I didn't consider myself in the same category with other devotees, so I was very much surprised when Swamiji motioned to me and spoke my name. I got up and walked to Swami. Might have been 10 feet, but it seemed like long distance. I embraced him, and that embrace was the most memorable embrace of mine. Right away, I noticed Srila Prabhupada's strength. It was so strong, it was like embracing a young man, a man of my age. I was 27, and he seemed even stronger and younger. And he hugged me tightly, and I also embraced him very fondly. He was smaller than me in stature, means height-wise. So I instinctively buried my chin in the hollow of his left shoulder. While I was embracing him, I felt very blissful and I felt a light. I felt there was a light, something bright and pure, some kind of energy emanating from my face. I opened my eyes and saw Kirtananda. He was standing behind Swami a few feet away, and I looked right into his eyes. And I was so happy and blissful that it reflected in himself. He broke into a big smile, smiled at me, and his eyes were very bright. It was as if some spiritual energy was actually emanating. That airport scene was a very important part of it. Because for me, a person who always had difficulty in loving, Swamiji's leaving forced out a lot of love from my heart. I didn't even know was there. It's like becoming a spiritual person when you feel love really developing for the spiritual master. I was becoming a spiritual person. It was a tremendous outpouring of feelings of separation and grief at his departure. Because we all knew he was of a life and soul. And to a person none of us were sure we would ever meet him again. So just see how the emotions, the feelings, loving sentiments are coming out of these devotees for Prabhupada. Accompanied by Kirtananda, whose head was shaven and who wore an incongruous black woolen suit, Prabhupada walked slowly towards the gate. As it disappeared from view, the devotees ran for the observation deck to get a last look at his departing plane. A gentle rain was washing the airfield as the devotees raced across the wet observation deck. There below were Prabhupada and Kirtananda walking towards the plane. Abandoning decorum, the devotees began to shout. Prabhupada turned and waved. He climbed a movable straight, turning again at the top, raising his arms and then entered the plane. The devotees chanted wildly while the boarding steps moved away. The doors closed and the plane began. The devotees had pressed close to the rail, but they all pulled back as the jet exhaust blasted by the feet. So earlier they had this observation that now everything is closed. With a great roar, the Air India jet, lights blinking, taxied out to the runway. The devotees continued to chant Hare Krishna until the plane left the ground, became a speck in the sky, and then disappeared. So that ends the 26th chapter. Tomorrow we can start chapter 27. See anybody has any questions or comments? So tomorrow is Moksha Ekadashi or anything today. So if possible, please chant, please read or hear all the shlokas of Bhagavad on the internet or YouTube. There's so many recordings. Hear that also. Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Srila Prabhupada. Thank you.